So as we all know, Wuthering Waves is to win a Cyberpunk Edgerunners collab, and honestly, a lot of people didn't see that coming. At first, it sounds kind of random. WuWa is this post-apocalyptic world where humanity is rebuilding after the lament, and Edgerunners is set in Night City, which is a corporate dystopia full of cybernetics, mercenaries, and people trying to survive in a system designed to chew them up. Which, now that I think about it, sounds a lot like New Federation, which is one of the upcoming regions we're getting in Wuthering Waves. New Federation is rumored to be this heavily industrialized corporate control area with advanced technology and a darker tone compared to what we've seen so far. If that's accurate, it would actually be the perfect setting for an Edgerunners collaboration. The aesthetics would line up perfectly, and it would make way more sense to drop the collab in a region that already shares those cyberpunk vibes. But even putting that aside, the more you think about this crossover, the more it starts to make sense. First thing worth pointing out is that this isn't a collaboration with Cyberpunk 2077. It's specifically with Cyberpunk Edgerunners, and that difference matters because Edgerunners is character driven. The anime focuses on a small group of really recognizable characters like Lucy, Rebecca, David, and Maine, and each of them has their own distinct personality and visual style. That makes it way easier for a gacha game to adapt. Instead of trying to represent all of Night City, Kuro can just focus on the characters themselves, and that's usually how the best collaborations work anyway. Then there's a combat system. WuWa focuses heavily on mobility, counters, aerial combos, and extremely fluid animations. Characters are constantly moving around the battlefield, chaining dodges and attacks together, and that lines up really well with the kind of action you see in Edgerunners. Take Lucy's fighting style for example. She'd fit WuWa's combat naturally. Rebecca's aggressive and chaotic, which could translate into rapid-fire explosive gameplay, and even David could work with his cybernetic enhancements, creating high-risk, high-reward mechanics similar to Dungeon, and the potential's definitely there. So from a gameplay perspective alone, this fits better than most people expect. But where collaborations really succeed or fail isn't just character design, it comes down to how the developers structure the event itself. Some of the most memorable collaborations in gaming worked because they felt like real crossovers rather than simple promotional events. Monster Hunter World's collaboration with The Witcher 3 is a great example. Instead of just adding Geralt as a cosmetic skin, Capcom created an entire questline where Geralt interacts with the Monster Hunter world. There was dialogue, story context, unique gameplay built around the crossover. Players still remember that collaboration years later because it felt like two worlds genuinely intersecting. But here's the good thing though. Kuro Games has already proven they know how to handle this kind of event. In Punishing Grey Raven, they collaborated with Devil May Cry and introduced Dante and Virgil directly into the game. That collaboration worked extremely well because they didn't treat the characters like simple skins. Dante and Virgil were fully playable with combat styles inspired by their original games. Their movesets felt authentic while still fitting into PGR's combat system. For a lot of players, that crossover became one of the most memorable events in the entire game because it respected both franchises. It felt like a genuine integration rather than just a marketing push. And that's actually a really encouraging sign for the Wuthering Waves collaboration. Kuro's done this before and they did it right. But not every collaboration lands like that. Tower of Fantasy's Evangelion collab was pretty much just cosmetics with minimal story integration. Arknight did a Rainbow Six Siege crossover that felt more like borrowed character designs than an actual collaboration. Even Genshin's Horizon Zero Dawn event was basically just Alloy as a free login reward with no real story tie-in. And when collaborations stay surface level like that, the hype tends to die out pretty fast. For Wuthering Waves, the ideal approach would involve playable characters, story content, and themed challenges all working together. A temporary storyline could explore how characters from Edgerunners ended up interacting with the WuWa world. Even a short narrative explanation can make a crossover feel way more believable. And the interesting thing is that WuWa already has something in its lore that could make this crossover work perfectly: the Sonoro Sphere. For those of you who don't know, the Sonoro Sphere is basically a resonance domain created by tacit Discord phenomena. It behaves almost like a pocket reality. Locations can become trapped inside it, and the environment inside can preserve fragments of the past or distort time in really unusual ways. And the most well-known example is Honami City. As you guys already know, Honami City existed inside a Sonoro Sphere for years. That's where Chisa was trapped for a long time. Inside that domain, time and reality didn't behave normally. The city was essentially preserved inside its own resonance space, stuck in a loop. What makes the Sonoro Sphere interesting is that it doesn't work like a normal place. Time inside these domains can move differently compared to the outside world. The environment can hold echoes of events that should have disappeared a long time ago, and from a storytelling perspective, that opens up a lot of possibilities. Instead of explaining that characters from Edgerunners somehow travel across galaxies or dimensions, The collaboration could revolve around a sonorosphere anomaly behaving in a completely new way. Imagine a sonorosphere forming somewhere in the WuWa world, but instead of containing fragments of the past, it starts pulling in echoes from a completely different timeline. When the rover enters the domain, they discover that this sonorosphere is connecting to another reality entirely, and that's where characters from Edgerunners could appear. And Chisa could actually play a really interesting role in this kind of story. Since she spent years trapped inside the Honami City sonorosphere, she already understands how strange those domains can be. She experienced firsthand how time inside those spaces doesn't behave normally. If a new sonorosphere started acting in ways nobody has seen before, she'd probably be one of the first characters capable of recognizing that something unusual is happening. Instead of the collaboration feeling random, the story could revolve around investigating a resonance anomaly that's connecting two different worlds, and thematically, that actually fits Edgerunners surprisingly well. Edgerunners is a story about people caught inside systems they cannot control. Characters constantly struggle against forces bigger than themselves, corporate power, cybernetic addiction, societal collapse, and you name it. In WuWa's version of the crossover, those characters could find themselves trapped inside a resonance domain they don't understand, while Rover and the others try to figure out why this anomaly exists and how to resolve it. There's real narrative potential there if Kuro decides to lean into it. From a gameplay perspective, this approach also gives the developers a lot of freedom. A sonorosphere-based event area could let them experiment with a completely different visual style without breaking the main world's aesthetic. Inside the domain, they could introduce neon lighting, futuristic structures, combat arenas inspired by cyberpunk architecture. Because the sonorosphere already functions as a contained domain space, it gives them a natural way to create an environment that looks very different from the rest of the game. That kind of setting would capture the visual atmosphere of Edgerunners while still fitting into the lore of Wuthering Waves. You get the cyberpunk aesthetic without sacrificing the established world building. Now obviously this is just me theorizing and thinking out loud. What Kuro ends up doing may or may not be completely different. There's also the question of which characters will appear. The only major Edgerunners collaboration we've seen so far was with Guilty Gear's Tribe back in August 2025, where Lucy was added as a fully playable DLC character. The collaboration was extremely well received. Arc System Works put incredible detail into her moveset, including authentic quick hacking mechanics straight from Cyberpunk 2077. The trailer even featured David Martinez and Rebecca as cameos, showing how much the developers respected the source material. If that's the standard CD Projekt Red expects from collaborations, then we are probably looking at Lucy and Rebecca as the most likely playable characters for Wuthering Waves. They're fan favorites, they have distinct combat styles, and they're visually iconic. David Martinez has never been released as a playable character in any past Edgerunners collaboration, which suggests there might be licensing or story reasons keeping him out. Main could be a possibility, but he's less of a focal character compared to Lucy and Rebecca. If I had to guess, we're probably getting Lucy and Rebecca as playable characters, with maybe David or Main appearing as NPCs. The other big reason this collaboration matters is the potential to bring new players into the game. Cyberpunk Edgerunners became extremely popular when it released. It reached audiences beyond typical anime fans, including people who were already familiar with Cyberpunk 2077. A lot of viewers were drawn in by its emotional storytelling, animation style, and soundtrack. Because of that, the collaboration could introduce Wuthering Waves to players who might not normally try a gacha game. Someone who loved Edgerunners might be curious enough to download WuWa just to see how the crossover was handled, and that's one of the biggest reasons collaborations exist in live service games. They're not just about giving existing players new content, but they're also about reaching audiences who might not have paid attention to the game before. Of course, the scale of the collaboration will matter a lot. If the event only adds a few cosmetics, the excitement will probably fade quickly, but if it introduces playable characters, story content, and a themed event area, it could easily become one of the most memorable updates the game has had. Right now, we still don't know exactly when the collaboration will arrive. Kuro confirmed during the 2.3 anniversary livestream that it's happening in 2026, and they officially partnered with CD Projekt Red to make it happen. Some leaks suggest it could appear around version 3.4, though that hasn't been confirmed. There's also rumors about a new futuristic region called New Federation potentially launching alongside the collab, which would make sense thematically, but again, it is not officially confirmed yet. Either way, the foundation for this crossover already looks really solid. The worlds share similar sci-fi aesthetics, the combat system fits the kind of action Edgerunners is known for, and the existing lore already includes concepts like the sonorosphere that could explain a crossover without breaking the story. This is also WuWa's first collaboration since launch, which makes it even more significant. Kuro's clearly putting thought into how they approach this rather than just rushing out a quick promotional event. if they handle it right, and if they build it around both gameplay and narrative ideas, give the characters authentic movesets, and create an event that feels like a crossover rather than just a banner, the Cyberpunk Edgerunners collaboration could become way more than a simple promotional tie-in. It could bring new players into the game, expand the story in unexpected ways, and show just how flexible the Wuthering Waves universe can actually be when it comes to storytelling. I'm cautiously optimistic. Kuro's track record with PGR gives me confidence they understand how to do this well. Now we just have to wait and see how ambitious they decide to be with it. So, what do you guys think about all this? Are you excited for the Cyberpunk Edgerunners collaboration, or are you skeptical about how it'll turn out? If you found this video interesting, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel.